Hey everyone, just some thoughts on this video. This is Permit Patty over here. You can go look that up. There's a lot of fun Instagram channels on, Karen's Unhinged, Karen's Gone Wild. This is something that has become part of the popular lexicon recently. And guess what? A lot of it is based on a lot of truth that you guys have probably experienced, and there's a lot of tension in gentrifying neighborhoods because the long time, typically residents of color use space in a different way than the new coming, typically white folks do. The thing is, it's not always that complex. I mean, it's not always that simple, and I'll go into that in a second, but I just want to acknowledge where a lot of those critiques come out of. People in Prospect Park are in drumming circles. This is mostly my experience in Brooklyn. And people on the down low are calling the cops. Permit Patty, permit because she asked an 8-year-old child if they had a permit to sell water. It's something that you can definitely look up. But there is this conflict of space between the new gentrifiers and the businesses they want, and you'll be able to see this in the activity that you do, and the folks who lived in the neighborhood before. And there's this feeling of displacement, like, hey, y'all didn't live here, and now you're coming in and you're calling the shots. It's really interesting because the research that I've done on neighborhood change, it's almost like something similar happened, let's say in the 1960s, in like ethnic white neighborhoods where newcomers came in and they had a different way of understanding space and doing things. I lived in a gentrified neighborhood in Brooklyn in the early 2010s, and I remember, there's this old lady next door, and she was really nice, and we talked a lot, and I was moving out. She's like, oh man, why are you moving out? We need people to stay here so they care about the community. And that's one of the things that's the problem. People only maybe go in these neighborhoods for their 20s or just to start up, and they have no real stake in them, right? So they're going to treat that different than people who live there and raise their families. And there's also these cultural conflicts that happen. And one of the things is like, hey, this gentrification is probably going to happen. Younger, primarily white folks coming from other areas are going to come in there and just be like, hey, I'm here because I heard it was fun and I don't have that much money. Trust me, when I lived in those neighborhoods, we used to live 4 people in a 2-bedroom. We weren't like living the life or anything, sneaking our garbage into garbage cans because we had no adequate solution for the public garbage cans. We had no adequate solution for it. It was not a fun time. It was not glamorous, okay? So, the thing I've always thought is like, how can the people who move in and the people who lived there for a long time, how can they settle with this common experience, right? But it doesn't happen, and people come in here and they're the worst. They're calling the cops on people who have been doing things for years, and now they're using the police as like a force to exactly. A permit doesn't mean much until you enforce it, and this is what this woman tried to do. So we have these conflicts happening over things like hanging out in public space, noise, and it would be much better if people could just talk this out and get to know each other and see that maybe they had some common values and things to struggle against, let's say rising prices. Nobody wants high rent. But, that's not what happens with these people in particular, the Karens of the world, or Permit Patty. And the reason why I gave you this video is because I found out early. I used to hang out a lot in Bed-Stuy, DJ'd over there. I dated some people there. I hung out in Harlem a lot. Still got a lot of friends up there. And the nature of the gentrification there isn't this very kind of straightforward white people displacing black folks, right? That's what we probably usually think of. Or in Pilsen in Chicago, it's Latino, Latinx people. So, there are these, and that happens a lot, but it's important to think about the other kinds of processes going on and how race works in gentrification, because as we saw in Harlem and in Bed-Stuy, a lot of the folks who are gentrifying are black folks who come from different places, right? And I didn't know until this guy kind of schooled me in on the game. He was just like, yo, man, he's like, I'm from Atlanta, and people don't see me as a gentrifier, but I certainly am. I'm helping drive up the prices in these neighborhoods and displace other people. So I think it's easy to have like a norm, and it is typical, so we do have to address this thing. Like, permit patio over here and why it's wrong. But we also have to see gentrification for some other things that go beyond just, black, white, or, white hipsters and gentrifiers versus long-time black and brown residents, right? We see that conflict, and that's part of it, but we want to see other parts of it too if it's a problem that we're interested in solving and cooperating to make, let's say, affordable housing in our cities, which is a problem we all face. It's the reason why I don't live in New York anymore, to be honest. I love New York. I went up there recently, and God, I had so much fun. But I can't live there. It's crazy. It's too hard. And part of the reason is because you have to pay so much for rent. You want your own. If me and my friends had our own cribs, if we had our own decent apartments, life would have been very different for all of us. But it's quite impossible in New York unless your parents are giving you a trust fund, or you're kind of in that top 10 to 20% of income earners. It's sad, but it's true. Okay, look forward to talking to you about this.